All right. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Good
Good.
evening.
Good evening.
How you doing tonight? So, welcome to the Woman to Woman show on the New You Nation Network. We are your co-hosts, and we are a talk show that deals with and discusses mature, relatable conversations. Everyone is welcome, but we are really gearing our conversations towards those individuals who are Gen X. So we are so excited that you're here tonight. Our founder, our extreme co-host Trey Kearney is not able to make it tonight, so we are going to hold it down for her. And I'm going to start as we usually start every Monday night with each of us going around and saying what we are grateful for. So I'm going to go around in the order that I see you. So Netta.
I am grateful for each of you. I'm grateful for Trey for trusting us to launch and co host together tonight. I'm grateful just for being healthy, strong, vibrant, and present.
Yes.
All right.
Sheila.
I am grateful for the power of discernment, teaching me and reminding me of when I need to step in and when I need to step away, which also leads me to being grateful for the power of self-control. Because something happened over the weekend, and a few years ago, I probably would have gotten into a lot of trouble because my mouth would have started talking before my brain had an opportunity to think. But I was able to hold back and let calmness prevail.
Nice. I know we all can relate to that.
Absolutely. That is growth. We celebrate
Mhm.
with you, Sheila.
And Regina,
It is growth indeed.
Regina.
Yes, I am grateful for kind of the same thing that Sheila's grateful for. In a way, I am learning to take my place with my children, with my sons, and
Mm,
interject when I need to interject and let them handle their own business and be a grandma and let them handle their relationships.
I
This
would say
kind of thing.
Mhm.
it's hard, but
Yeah.
once you get used to it, right? It gets easier, right?
I don't know if it gets easier, but I'm learning to, especially having boys.
Mm.
And I was going to go into this whole trying to tell them how to, because as a woman, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Let me tend to what I need to tend to. I'll be a grandma.
Nice. Well, I like Netta. I am grateful that Trey has trusted us
Mhm.
with leading tonight and co-hosting. And and I'm grateful for, I think what Sheila said as well, like this discernment. Like I'm learning to really
Yeah.
discern and pay attention, right, to when I need to fall back, stay in my
Exactly.
lane,
Hmm.
don't cross over, all of that stuff. So I'm and I'm grateful as always just to be here, right, breathing in air, right, just for another day. And so that's what I'm grateful for, right? So our topic tonight is platonic relationships and dealing with the loss of platonic relationships. And one of the things that Netta and I were talking about off screen was, when I saw the topic was what does that mean? What does a platonic relationship mean to each of you when you hear when you first heard the topic? Like, which is last minute. Like Trey always said, like I would explain to whoever is listening, welcome. As Trey would say, right? Normally we don't find out the topic until probably about 30 minutes before we're about to go live. And so when I saw the topic, I literally said, I know the meaning of platonic, but I felt like I had to Google it to make sure I was on the right track. So whoever wants to jump in, like, what did you think when you saw the topic? What did platonic breakups resonate for you? How did that resonate?
Well, what's interesting is that, we often look at romantic relationships dissolving, right? But the truth of the matter is that in every lifetime, you are likely to experience the breakup of platonic relationships more so than you will a romantic relationship, because you're going to be more cautious about who you get involved with romantically, sexually, or whatever, right? But
Mhm.
we all have friends, right? And you might have your core group of friends from when you were younger, and then as you progress, you add a few more, and then when you get to a certain point, you have just that group. And it could be, one group is good for something and another group is good for something else, but they're all your friends. And at some point, people are going to start to drop off, right?
Mhm.
Whatever it may be. Maybe it's because you're growing and they're not. So you need to get away from them. They're toxic. Or maybe you might be toxic to somebody else. So that
Mhm.
relationship has to end. But that's something that's probably going to continue. And then life just happens. People just fall off the grid because of their own reasons. Um,
Mhm.
but you're going to, and we tend not to acknowledge that. And I can even think back to my first platonic breakup. We all tend to have our own little groups, our own little cliques, and this is going back to high school, and there were four of us that were really really tight. But then one of the persons started to gravitate towards another group, and it hurt me the most because she and I had started out first as best friends, and then the other gradually came in. So that to me was a big, big loss. And it was nothing against us, but she just decided to go into another direction. So that changed even the trajectory of our friendship from that point on, because there were times when we would barely even speak to each other. But that really crushed my soul. And when I think about it, when those instances have happened, I probably harbor more pain even to this day with those ships than any romantic relationships that I've had and that have not made it.
Mhm.
Well, in regards to platonic relationships for me, I too, Theo, had to go to Dr. Google and take a cruise down some of the definitions, because growing up, all I heard about platonic relationships was between male and female. So that's what I was thinking of, um, in terms of male and female friendship. But as we know, the synonym is just close friendship. It doesn't necessarily have to be between two different genders. So, with that understanding, I can say that there have been some very painful breakups with friends or people I thought were friends. And that's a whole nother conversation. But um, it was definitely painful because I'm the peacemaker. I'm the one that wants everybody to get along. Can we just all do this together? What's the problem? Why do you have an issue with her? She didn't do anything to you. That's me. I want peace among everyone, or I used to. Let's say with wisdom, I've learned that's not my role. Back to what Regina was saying before, wisdom, you understand what your role is and what it's not. And also releasing myself from owning the outcome between others. I can only control me and how I respond and behave. So, again, wisdom is the principal thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Regina?
Well, I think the most painful relationship, because when I saw that, I was like, what? What's going on? But I immediately thought about, like Sheila, I thought about a relationship that I had with a friend in college. And I met her in college and we became really, really good friends. And she went off and got married while we were in college. Well, I think after some time. And then the marriage didn't work and she came back. And prior to that, we were roommates and we were just tight. We did everything. And I'm like, sure, you could come back, you know. And it was such a difference. She was so different.
Mm.
And it's like her whole everything changed. And we lived together and we barely talked. It
Wow.
was so weird. And it was like, what in the world? But and it hurt. It hurt to this day. I just like I don't even know what happened. But at that time, I was young. She was young. She probably got married. Well, she was in her 20s. I was in my 20s. She got married in her 20s. So maybe she didn't know how to relate the
Mm-hmm.
breakup. I didn't know what she was going through. I didn't know how to help. And we just kind of separate. And then our circle, all of us thought, like, why is she so weird? Like, but as I got older, she probably was hurting and none of us knew how to do. We didn't know what was going on with her.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the most painful thing, but that was really painful. And I think about it to this day, like that was really painful. And I wish I could keep in touch with her and go back and talk and go through that. Because now I'm older, she's older, you know, we could talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But that was really the most painful platonic relationship I ever had.
It's funny when you talked about, you know, the person change, right? Because
Mhm,
I remember for me, you know, I
mhm,
have different subset of friends as we all do. And
mhm,
I remember when we had, you know, uh, um, I had a friend who from high school, I thought we would be friends forever, like
mhm,
forever, right? And I moved to New Jersey and she came to visit one weekend. And then like a couple of like weeks later, whatever, a month later, she started saying that I changed. Right. And I'm like,
mhm,
what's different about me other than my address, right? And you know, and then she talked about how, you know, she was going through something. I had given her all the advice I absolutely thought I could give her, right? Where I had exhausted everything, but I guess she just felt like I, you know, left her high and dry, right? And so I remember calling one of my other friends, and I'm like, because she was sending me like these Dear John emails, right, about how I changed and all of this. And I remember talking to one of my other girlfriends, and I was like, man, you know, I can't believe this. And my girlfriend was like, girl, you know who you are, you know your heart, you know that if any of your friends need anything, you are there for them. This is not about you, this is about her. And she and then I like responded and basically said, well, you know, I'm not sure why you believe I changed. I have no problems, you know, being your friend, but if you feel like you no longer want to be my friend, then you know, okay, right? And literally that was the last time I spoke to her, and that was probably like 2007, 8. Like, and every couple of years in my mind, I would be like, I can't believe that we haven't reconnected. But then when I started like thinking about her and her personality, I was like, you know, it's funny because whenever she had a falling out with somebody, it was always that person's fault. Right, like she would,
mhm.
you know, because I would hear her talk to me about other friends and how they were this and they were that or whatever, and that kind of gave me peace because then I was like, you know what, I knew it wasn't me, but when I just started recalling how I had been the recipient of hearing her talk about other you know, situations she had with other people, and it was always them. I was like, okay, right? But to the point that Regina says, it's crazy because every now and then she'll pop in my head and I'll be like, oh, I wonder how she is. I wonder how her son is. But it does, but not in a way that I'm longing to reconnect. But it's amazing because it was someone that I thought we would probably be friends for.
Yeah.
So it's amazing, right? Because we're talking about, that female relationship, but also when I think of the platonic breakups, I think of the fact that people say men and females can't be friends, right? So when you think about, having a platonic relationship with a male, do you believe in that, adage that men and female really can't be friends? And have you ever experienced that where, especially when you have a male friend that you're really close with and then they get married or they get into a relationship with a girl and then the dynamic changes?
Oh, absolutely. I have a really good friend from high school, and he got married actually from somebody that went to high school with us. And this person did not care for me in high school. So once they got married, he was really distant. Now, he and my husband met, they did football, NFL games together, things like that. So I'm thinking all is well. We're mature, we're good because we don't live in the same area. But once we, connected over the football game, I was thinking maybe this is going to be good. I'm glad to see my friend and we'll see if she can be my friend as well. No, that wasn't the case at all. It was probably, let's say, winter time in July, based on her personality. So, with that being said, it became just exchanging Christmas cards, pictures, things like that. And even now, that's drifted off. We don't do that anymore. And it's kind of sad because we were really good friends, but at the same time, I am not the one to stand in the middle of someone's relationship. And if that's, what it takes for him to have a happy home, I certainly wish them the best.
Yeah. Wow. That is something, because I have a really good male best friend. Like we used to work together, and I remember when he started like dating a girl that he was real serious about, like he literally made sure we met, right? And so she was like this is just my friend, but I was the one that started to pull back, right? Because I was like, I don't want to disrespect the relationship. I don't want to, infringe. Then once they got married, I literally was like, and this is the craziest thing because I do this with a lot of couples that I know. I put the husband and wife's contact information in my phone. So it's not just like the male's name, it's like so and so and their wife, right? Like it's the husband's name, the wife's name, right? And I don't even know why. I don't know even why that's the thing for me, right? Like I'm not sure why that like became like something that was important for me to do, because I even do it with one of my cousins, right? Like I have her name and her husband's name together under their numbers, right? Under her number, right? But for me, it's really important, even though like it's a relationship that I value, and we still we send each other birthday cards every year. We still talk on the phone, like every week, catch up, like every quarter or whatever. Hey Carter. And it's funny because his wife one time was like, why do you guys call yourself by your last name? Because we call each other by our last name. So he'd be like, hey Carter, how you doing? Right? But I do believe that male and females can be friends, but I do believe that there is a fine line of managing that friendship when the opposite sex comes into the picture for the other person.
I'll say this, Theo, really quickly. I'm big on respect.
Mm-hmm.
And the respect that I would want to receive from someone else, I certainly give that to the other person. And so, in the vein of text messages, I include the husband and wife.
Mm-hmm.
I get their number, I exchange numbers, and I include both of them in any type of communication.
Yeah, that's me. Like I'm like, if someone's like, "Oh, my husband could do it," I'm like, "Okay." I'm gonna text both of y'all to ask your husband.
Mm-hmm.
And when he come to my house, you need to come with him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Right. You know, like I appreciate you volunteering his services, but y'all need to come together.
Right.
Because it's just a level, because like you said, it's what I would want to be done with me. And some people would say it's insecure, right? But I don't believe that's insecurity. I believe that's respect.
Mm-hmm. At
Right.
least that's from my
Respect.
perspective.
Exactly.
Somebody else
Yeah.
might be
Yeah.
insecure, but the way my intention is for respect.
Yeah. All right. So how do you heal after a friend hurts you? Like in my situation, right? Where I felt like I didn't know what I did. Like in her mind, I changed and I didn't know what that meant, right? How do you heal after that?
Well, let me ask you this. Did you ever have a conversation with her to find out exactly what it was that she meant
I did.
when she said
I
that you
did.
changed?
Yeah, like she just said I
And she
changed.
just
Like,
couldn't pinpoint it?
yeah, like I mean like the
Hmm.
example she gave, I was like, I don't like she was going through the situation. She asked me for some advice. I said, well, how about this? You should try this. Maybe you can do this. Maybe you can do that. Right. And then, it was like after a certain amount of time, it was late. I had to get off the phone. Right. And I think because I guess I got off the phone. Right. And I guess she wasn't finished with whatever she needed from me. And so I don't know. Like it really was like, it's still a mystery to me to this day.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the only thing I could think of, and whenever I've experienced that situation, it was just like time took care of the healing because, I guess we weren't at an age where we realized the importance of communications. Because the times that it's happened,
Mhm.
I never found out why the person dropped off.
Mhm.
Because it happened again in college, not even college, but with college friends. And afterwards, after we all graduated, we were hanging out, and then all of a sudden, one joke personally because she knows
Mhm.
to
Oh,
sit you with
Sheila froze.
me. Nonetheless, am I frozen?
Yeah,
Can you hear me
Yeah.
now?
we can
Yeah.
hear you now.
Um, okay. Because in my situation, they were really, really good friends. They weren't just fly by night friends.
Mhm.
We were really tight. But they never communicated why they decided that they needed to branch away from us. Um,
Mhm.
which was the strangest thing. So I would like to think that, if I ever encountered that again, that person would be open to explain. And if we still needed to go our separate ways, then so be it. But at least I'd have a better understanding of what happened. And if I played a role in it or if it was
Mhm.
so for me, it was just,
So
letting time.
time. So time,
Mhm.
like just letting time pass by. Like, have you?
Yeah.
But did you like? Did it take you a while to get over it? Like to get rid of the what did I do? Right, because I think when we were younger, we probably thought like that was more of an issue for us. Now we probably not so much, right? But
Yeah, and it did. I mean, you sat back and you tried to, you let scenarios play in your mind. It was like, okay, the last time we were all together, or the last time I had a conversation, everything just seemed fine. But then, all of a sudden, my calls were not being answered. Uh,
mm,
and then, I'll check with one of the other friends, and it's like, no, I haven't heard from such and such, and they haven't responded to any of my emails because this was all before social
yeah,
media hit big. And it was just like, and no one knew what was going on. So again, like I said, in that instance, I didn't feel so bad because, now I can say, well, it wasn't me, right? But then again, I really don't know because they never communicated.
So that's interesting that you would say that, because the next question I had was, have you ever ghosted a friend, or have you ever been ghosted by a friend? Right. And back then we didn't even know what ghosted meant. Right. Right. But that's like, she basically ghosted you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So have any of you ever been ghosted by a friend, or had a friend ghost you, or want to ghost somebody? Because I've had people I wanted to ghost.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I've had people ghost me. Interestingly enough, when my path started to change, you're a group of friends, everybody's single.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I got married, there were certain ones who, I don't know why, but they stopped communicating with me. And then when I would reach out, like you say, the ghost, you don't get a response back. And then when you see them in person, I'm like picking up where I left off in my heart, I'm clear. So it's like, hey, running over to hug. And it's like you're hugging a post. It's like, not interested, and literally walk away. And that was very hurtful, because to this day, like many of you have said, I have no idea of why the person just changed, became cold-hearted, stone-faced, and then maybe a few years later come back around, and it's a very distant hello.
Mm-hmm.
But at least it's a hello at this point. And I'm at the place in life where I don't own that. Like I said in the beginning, it's not my issue. It would be nice to be able to communicate. And I think that's a very important piece of wisdom. If the person is not in a mature place to communicate with you, don't chase them down.
Mm-hmm.
I tried that, I just want to know what happened. And, you still get the cold shoulder, the ghost, and no response. So if they've moved on for whatever scenario they've created in their head, you have to be able to bless and release.
And Regina, what about you?
No, that has not happened to me, but it has happened to like a couple of my close friends that I've seen, especially one of my friends that was in a wedding. It was three of us that we met out here, and we were all supposed to be in a wedding, and the one just stopped talking to the bride, and she asked me, "Have you heard from her?" And I'm like, "No." And her and the bride were closer. Well, yeah, she was closer to the bride. Well, we all were close, but the bride was the middle, and we both. So I didn't call her as much, but her and the bride talked all the time, and I've seen, and she just kind of like just stopped talking to her. It was the weirdest thing. So, and she says, "Did you call her?" And I don't want to call her name out, but
so how did that impact the relationship, the dynamic of the group?
It just
didn't impact it at all.
It didn't impact it at all. But right now, I didn't call her that much anyway because I wasn't a caller. So a lot of times she would call and say, "If I don't call you guys, da 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 da." But they talk more than me and her, and I was like, "Well, I'm not a caller, but if you call me, I'm going to return your call," which I did, and we talk. But right now, I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to be in the middle of whatever happened, because I don't even know what happened. It didn't have anything to do with me, but I don't even want to I don't want to be. And so I said, well, I'm not going to reach out, because I don't reach out anyway. And I don't know what happened. It was so weird, but that was one thing. And then another friend happened the same thing, but I wasn't really kind of I just saw the people just fall off. They blocked them on Facebook, but they still talk to me. Like, that was just the weirdest thing.
That Facebook blocking thing kills me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even understand that.
Yeah. And I just
and it's so crazy, because I was just saying to Trey the other day, where I think I'm kind of dealing with it now, but because of where I'm at in life now, it is not phasing me, right? Like, you know how, you know, I know someone where I've like either reached out or sent a message, and I either get a like a one word, or you get you know, nothing, silence or whatever, right? And it was funny because I started thinking to myself, wow, you've really grown, because younger Theodora would have made a whole story up in my head. Like I would have made a story. I would have been sitting back like here for days trying to figure out, what did I do? What the last time we spoke? Did I say something? Did I do something? Did I not do something? And so what I would say right now, why I'm bringing that up is, for anyone that might be listening now or will listen to this later, if you're dealing with that situation right now, the one thing I will say is not go into that space of trying to figure out what you did. Like Sheila said, and Netta said, and Regina said, if it's not a person that's mature enough to tell you that you've done something to them or hurt them or to, you know, offend them, or even willing to talk to you, that means that the season is over.
Right.
Because I was thinking about that. I was like, damn, I'm so glad I've grown, because right about now I probably would be under a rock or somewhere trying to figure out, what did I do? How did I do? What happened? Why is this person not talking to me? And back then, most of those times, right, it turns out nothing was wrong.
Right.
Right. The person was busy, or the person just was whatever, right? But for that person out there that's right now sitting trying to figure out why somebody ghosted them, if they're not mature enough to have a conversation with you, it was good while it lasted. Let it go. Like, just let it go, because that will drive you crazy, right? So do you feel like a certain way when, like, it's you that gets left out of the equation? Like, you know, you have a group of friends, and you know, you guys are always doing something together, and then all of a sudden you're not invited, or the dynamic shifts or changes. Like, do you feel a way about that?
I actually have a funny story about that. So, you know, my core group of friends from college, you know, we were, you know, we're always trying to plan something, but everyone's schedule is hectic, right? So one of them said, look, I'm going to have a Friendsgiving, right? Let's all get together. Okay, fine. And then so one day I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the pictures that they done posted on Facebook, and I'm like, nobody told me they got together without me. Oh my God. And I was ready to look, I was ready, had my trigger fingers on my text buttons, right? I was getting ready to send a text until one of the postings, one of the friends said, I hosted my Friendsgiving, and then it hit me. You weren't there because you had to decline because you had a prior engagement. But I was like, how in the world can they get together without me? I was offended. I was crushed. I was downright heartbroken.
But isn't it funny how you like, in some cases you really didn't even want to go, but you be but you be like, I'm mad because they didn't invite.
I've done that too. I especially after I saw the pictures, I was like, man, if I could have only been with my girls during their Friendsgiving weekend. But there have been times, yes, where it's like, oh, I don't want to go. I didn't want to be invited. And then all of a sudden people start talking about it, or I see a picture of something and I'm like, dang, yeah, how come I wasn't invited? Or I should have been there or something.
Now let's shift and talk about the family dynamic when it comes to you know, being left out, or those different dynamics between your family, right? Like, for me, and thank God it's changed a little, but I remember where I would hate going to family functions because the minute I walked in, somebody would tell me who they're not talking to.
Oh.
Right. And then I'd be like, okay, but I am, right? So how do you manage those little rifts and discords that might happen in your family? Especially, it's usually with the extended family that you only get together with, right? Every now and then, too.
I don't engage in it
Mhm.
because I am a person who loves and protects my peace. If someone mentions to me someone else's name and what they wait, they're not here. This is between me and you. Let's stay present. I'm not interested in that. And so my family knows that about me.
Mhm.
So it doesn't even come to me. And because of that, I get left out of some things.
Oh, interesting.
Mhm.
So,
And I'm
so
okay because I don't do drama.
yeah.
Mhm.
I don't, period. My peace is priceless.
Mhm.
Yes.
And so if that means I can't be part of the function, the gathering, whatever the case may be, I still have my peace.
Wow, that is really interesting because I never thought of. I wish that maybe they did invite me.
My family is so far apart that when we do get together, well, at least for me, when I get invited, it's no drama because I'm never in a state where I see them. So when we get together, it's just we all hugging and kissing because we, and I think it's just really my family all together because we don't live. I mean, if anything, if anyone's fighting, it's the brothers and the sisters that kind of live together in that state. So we can't, and that's probably the truth because the biggest part of my family, especially on my mom's side, the ones I get together is one like my one set of cousins. They all live in St. Louis, so they're brothers and sisters. So that's
Mm.
that's siblings. So
Mhm.
when the cousins come, they're coming from New Jersey, uh, Michigan, Chicago. We're all coming from.
From all over.
Now I live in North Carolina. So who we gonna fight with?
Mhm.
So it's a difference. I don't have that, thank God. I
Mhm.
don't. So we're joking and talking about stuff when we're kids, or remember when Auntie did this, or remember when we did. So thank God I don't have that. So
How do you manage the and I wouldn't even say platonic relationships because I guess these are more like associates, but that work dynamic, right? Those people that think they're your friends, right? And it creates this whole thing, right, in the workspace because you have people that are truly somehow in their minds friends. And so how do you navigate that, like, keeping that line? Because I think we all have the same personalities, right? Where we're able to very distinguish between it, but a lot of
Mhm.
people are not.
Mm.
So how do you navigate that without how would you well I would actually say how would you and I know how I would tell people to do it from an HR standpoint, but I'm not going to put that hat on right now. But how would you tell someone to navigate that in the workplace, right? Where, some people don't understand the importance of really managing that friend versus professional relationship. Because it is possible to end up with a friend in the workplace, right?
mhm.
But there is a way to manage it. Like what would you say to someone that is struggling with that? Like they're like trying to figure out how do I manage, right, being friends with this person in the workplace without it crossing over into something that could be not so great,
Mhm.
You
and
mean
end
like
up in the HR office.
So
like a relationship, like a boyfriend girlfriend, or just platonic?
I'm saying platonic because the whole
Okay.
boyfriend girlfriend thing is a whole nother.
Okay, platonic. Well, that actually happened to me with a manager. I ended up being very close with my manager, and we ended up being friends. However, when we ended up knowing that we had very good interests, I mean, that we were gonna, end up being friends, and she kept it like I didn't get her number. We didn't go out. We didn't do anything until I left her department. Once I left her department, we exchanged numbers and we started hanging out.
So that's the advice you would get. Because I think honestly, not to put shade on anyone, like if there are any younger people on here, right? I think they struggle with that a lot. And I say that being an HR professional, because that's where you see a lot of the drama that happens in the workplace is between individuals who they spend 3 days in orientation together and then they're best friends. Right? And then that unravels right down the line. So that's some great advice that you just gave, right? Is
because she was my, she was my, I was her direct report. So it could have went. And there was days when she had to tell me if something, and I was mature enough to accept it and know where the line was,
And that's the hardest part when there was manager, right? Because when they have to discipline you,
right? And there was my peers would say, they would look at it and we would know. I couldn't show because they saw the closeness coming. So it was a way that we had to manage that. So people wouldn't say, well, that's your favorite, or that's no. So.
And I was gonna say, I know I said this is for the younger people, but I will honestly say that you experience it a lot with people who are much older in the workspace. She doesn't like me. I don't like her. They did this to me. They did that to me. Right. So I think it's crazy. Like when I first saw the platonic breakup thing, I was like, okay, what are we going to talk about? Right. I probably say that every Monday. and then we have a whole conversation about it. But it's funny how you can think of so many different scenarios, right? Where that platonic friendship thing, and we didn't even touch on when the platonic male-female relationship kind of moves into not being platonic, like the friends with benefits type of situation, right?
Yeah. I'm going to step back a second to the piece where you're talking about being professional and being friends in the workplace. I think, keeping it professional is the safest way to go. If something develops outside of that, that's a bonus, but wisdom says keep it professional. I operate from a space of kindness. So people sometimes think, that's my really good friend because she's nice to me. And we're in a world where people aren't always nice. So I still just I'm kind and nice to everyone. So then that way, that's my character. That's who I am. It's not me putting on a front. That's just who I am. So professional and kind is just the advice I would give. So I just wanted to go back to the advice you were asking for.
Yeah, and I honestly will say that for me, I think all of us have these similar personalities, right? We tend to be kind. We tend to be the people that want to tell their whole life stories too. But I had to learn early on because of my career to set strong boundaries, right? Because you get a lot of that, if you talk more to one person than another, they say that's the HR, that person is your favorite, right? I had a really stringent rule about, who I went, like going to lunch. Like I would go to lunch with maybe a couple of people, but I try not to do those one-off unless it was like, one of my peers that were up on my level. Because navigating it as an HR professional really becomes tricky. And I remember when I first got promoted from individual contributor into my first management role. And I had like two people who were close friends, like with me that I worked with, and we did a lot of stuff out of the workspace. But most people on the job knew my rule. Like if we were friends in the workplace, what happened when we were not at work, we didn't talk about work, and when we were at work, we didn't talk about what happened outside. And I remember, getting promoted, and the two of them are going to be reporting to me, where I had literally said to them, listen, guys, we got to manage this relationship, right? So nothing's going to, like, when we're here, work is work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to treat you any differently, right? You know, and it was amazing, because I'm thankful that at that age, because I was young, I probably was in my late 20s, early 30s, right? That I had learned enough professionally that I knew that I needed to have that conversation, because that is how some managers fail.
Mm-hmm.
They get promoted, right? Because they can't really navigate that. I used to work as a peer with this person, and now I manage them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely. Communication is huge.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if it's in the workplace or family or whatever the case may be. Communication is the key to making sure that these misunderstandings don't happen. I just would hope, as we're growing and we're sharing with the audience, have the conversations that, even though they seem hard at the moment, they will be beneficial on the other side of it.
Especially when we go back to that whole ghosting thing, like literally just have the conversation with someone. Don't, like, I mean, yeah, it's fine if you want to ghost someone, you never want to call them again, you want to text them, but if it's someone that you consider to really be a friend, give them the opportunity, right, to know that, like, hey, Sheila, you did XYZ, right? I'm just picking at you because I'm looking at you.
Right.
Right. You know, Sheila, you did XYZ, and, you know, it made me feel a certain way. And let Sheila say, well, you know what, Theo, I don't know, girl, I didn't mean that, or I didn't mean it that way. Or she might say, you know what, you're getting on my nerves. This is right. But at least have the conversation.
Right.
Because especially, I think, for people that have not really gotten to the point where we're at, not that we're grand and better than anybody else, but because we have studied the art of communication, we have studied self-control, we have studied emotional intelligence, right? We navigated a little better. But for someone that has not done that, I mean, I tell people all the time, communication will make or break any relationship, personal or professional. Right.
Absolutely. But then again, it's one of those things also too that's learned as you get older. You as you start to mature in life, you appreciate some of the things that you are now discovering, and you realize, I just wasn't that smart back then. So now you can look at it and say, maybe that person is just protecting their peace for whatever reason. And now I'm realizing that, hey, even I don't think it was approached correctly. I need to do what's necessary to protect my peace, right? And part of that may be trying to even work deeper with the healing process so that I can learn to let that go. Because how is it damaging me if I keep holding on to it? What good is it doing for me if I'm not learning to let it go?
I'm glad you went there, because my next question was going to be like, what tips would you give someone when it comes to like healing and forgiving, right? Because, I think at some point, even if you never speak to the person again, like for me, I've had to, like, in my head, like, get over it, right? And forgive the person, right? Even though they ghosted me or they may never want to talk to me again. Like, I've had to really say, you know what? You just got to let it go. In some cases, I was good with it because I realized how peaceful my life was, not having that person in it. But those were some good tips that you gave, Sheila. So, like, Netta, Regina, what would you say, like, to anybody? Like, what tips would you give someone when it comes to healing or forgiving when they feel like somebody has, like, just ghosted them, or a friendship ends, right, because of just something happened?
Well, I look at it, everything happens for a reason. I look at it, God that removed them for some reason. So God didn't remove them out of my life. So I take the higher road. It's not easy, but a lot of times that's what I look at it like that. And I try to look at it like that, because when someone has been removed, it's more peace. They might not have necessarily been disruptive, but I've noticed that some people that have been removed, it's just less, it's just calmer, or it's no aggravation, or it's no, you know how people be, it's a silent disruption, like
That's
so,
good right there. A silent disruption.
yeah.
Talk a little bit more about that. The silent disruption.
Just it's just everybody, it could just be a group, it don't have to be nothing said, it's just something in the air, or something, or you just might be doing a project and it just always has to be something, or something that's just unspoken something, but when they're removed, the calmness come in. So
That's good. The silent disruption. Just their aura. Right? You're like, you feel it in the air.
Yes.
You could even see, you could feel them, or they'll be around, because I've been around, like, you're already just kind of, you might not say nothing, but you'll be glad.
Or the person that never smiles, always just yeah. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, when you said the aura, there's something to be said about energy. You know, that's something that, again, that you don't realize what it is. But now you see a lot of phrases. It's like, okay, keep that same energy, or bring that energy. Don't come with that negative energy. There's a lot of that. So there's that, not necessarily physical, but there's some kind of like transcendental kind of relationship going on. I don't even know if I said it correctly. But it's just there's a feeling that's in the atmosphere.
Right. And I had a coworker, now that she would be, child, oh boy. You wasn't doing nothing to me, but you come with that. I'm like, Lord.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And honestly, younger than me, but acting like she's 100 years old, and just at one time I didn't even think the girl. She said something about she said a boo, shocked me to death. I said, "You have a boyfriend?"
Oh no.
Yeah, I have a man. I said, well, all that you be saying, like, because every day was child.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's good. For me, the statement that keeps coming up is, what you chase runs. So that's across the board. If somebody walks away, and I am positive I've not done anything against them, you have to let the little birdie fly. Right. Let them go. And again, it goes back to protecting peace. When you try to make someone do something, the weight is on you. You're always working extra hard. You're doing overtime for the friendship.
Right.
And then is it really a friendship at that point?
It's true. It becomes work.
So the advice is, if somebody walks away, let them. Just go back to what Regina said. It's for a reason. Right. There has to be space. I remember Dr. DC Marshall sharing with us about, clutter, your physical space.
Right.
If it's full of things, how do you have room for the blessing? There's no room for it. So just as it is in relationships, if somebody has removed themselves, that's making room for what's supposed to be in your life in that moment.
And that's so true, right? Because you sometimes when people leave your space, right, it does make room for what's supposed to be there,
Right.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that takes growth because we all had to grow to get to this point. Because when we were younger, we probably couldn't have never accepted this sweet
Mhm.
drill brain
Right.
trying to chase somebody. But that all takes growth, and we're mature enough to know. And it took work for us to get here, you know.
Absolutely.
So
Exactly.
And have a core
Yeah.
group of
mhm.
sound-minded
Right.
individuals that you can sit and have that conversation with to talk that thing through,
Mhm.
because you
Yep.
never know. They may have just the answer that you're looking for and didn't know it. You just
Mhm.
conversing, communication. We're back to that.
Yeah.
Talk it out with somebody you trust.
All
Right.
right. So, ladies, I'm thinking we should do something that we haven't done in a long time. Dr. Ebony's.
And what's
Look at that smile on Theo. Okay, I have them nearby. Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, so this is Dr. Ebony's My Therapy card, and the one that I pulled says, "What are you doing to recharge and refuel?" So this is perfect for the conversation we're having. When something leaves, you've got to do something to fill in that space. So what are
Mhm.
you doing to recharge and refuel?
Mm.
Wow.
Hmm.
So I will start. I'm thinking back to the situation I talked about, right? Um, and I think you, like, to the point that Regina made, and I think we all made, right? You at some point come to the realization that it makes room for something else, right? Whether it gives you more time because that person was taking a lot of your time because you were spending a lot of time being their personal whatever, right? You realize how much time and energy you were expending on that person, right? So I think it gives, for me, it gives me an opportunity to, like, really reflect on how I could recenter myself, right?
Mhm.
And makes room for maybe that friend that really should be getting that energy, right? That person that matches your energy more so than drains your energy.
Mhm.
Mhm. So what I'm doing to recharge and refuel is introspection and reflection, because we're coming in, to the end of the year,
Mm,
taking a look at what worked, what didn't, and filling it in with what's going to make me feel better about me and where I am in this moment. For me, it's prayer, reading my word, reading what God says about me helps me to feel better. That's definitely a refuel and a recharge for me.
mm.
Um, right now, I'm not a TV person, but being able to watch Christmas movies, the wholesome kind,
Oh my God, I
the
overdosed
ones that are
on
about family and
Mhm.
connection and reconnecting and all of those things. Yeah, that's where I
Mhm.
am.
I will honestly say I've been watching Christmas movies probably since October, and I'll keep watching them past December. I just go into the archives on demand. I love Christmas movies.
Mhm.
So,
Share,
you
Virginia.
know, for me, I think it's to start looking ahead and planning instead of wallowing or trying to figure out what it is that happened. I take that and I just start planning. It's like, okay, so what are some of the things that you need to do in the next coming weeks to
Mhm.
get you to point A or to point
Mhm.
B or somewhere. So using that as my drive to move away from anything that has gotten me down or something where I've been stagnant. It's like, whether or not, like, 'cause right now, truth be told, I'm in my head thinking about Christmas Eve with my family and what we're
Mm,
going to be doing, so that's what I'm more in tune with, and that's what's taking up all of my distractions and things like that, which is giving me the energy that I need to make sure that it is a great family event like it always is every year.
Nice.
Right. And for me, it's just taking inventory of what has happened in the past, we personally with me, because I'm not taking no inventory of what happened with them, what's happened with me and where I'm going forward, and what I need to do to change, which I've already started writing some things down and um, writing up a plan and things that, like what all of you guys have said, what didn't work, what's going to work, what I, you know, just the inventory of that's what it is, what worked and what didn't work, and what I'm going to do in the future. So I have no time to sit there and think about why they're not in my life. They've gone for a reason. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I would say to anyone that's watching, it's 9:01, so we're a little over, but I would say, I'm hoping that anyone that was listening to us or heard us heard that, platonic relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I think like even permanent relationships, right? I think just in general, there's a season for everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? And recognizing when the season is over, and it doesn't mean that it's good or bad, because what's the saying? People come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you sit back and you recognize that, you know what, maybe this person was here for a reason, they were here to teach me something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this person was here for a season, they would help me grow or go through something, right? And then you'll understand who your lifetime people are. And your lifetime people are there with you through the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, right? You could talk to them, a year from now after not talking to them for a year, and you pick right back up where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say in all things, just remember that, when I think Netta, you said it best, when someone leaves your life, right? You think about what they're making room for,
Mm-hmm.
right? What they're making room for. So, I and to what all you said about just getting ready for what's next. This December is, I call it preparation month.
Mm-hmm.
So we all should be preparing,
Mm-hmm.
if not just for the holiday, but we should be preparing for how we're gonna end this year and how we're gonna go into the new year.
Mm-hmm.
So we thank you for joining us this evening. Does anyone have any last bit of wisdom or words that they want to share before we close out tonight?
I
Well,
would
I
say
think
focus on the positive and don't allow yourself to reflect on what was, what you wish was. Um, Reality is where you are, and make the best of that. Move forward without feeling regret for what has happened.
Mm,
Mhm. Yeah, keep in mind that life is about evolution. Things are ever changing, whether it's just something within you or the people that are around you. Things are always going to change, some for the good and some for the not so good.
Mm-hmm.
So, for everything that changes, just understand that there's a lesson to be learned to
Right.
propel you to move forward, to be your best, to work on your relationship with yourself, and to work on your relationship with God.
Right.
mm,
Right. I would say protect your peace at all costs. If you need somebody to reach out to any of us, reach out to a therapist, reach out to your pastor, your close friends, your circle. Um, just reach out. Don't ever feel alone. As Trey would say, also the suicide line, if there is anyone feeling, especially during this season, if you need any kind of help, reach out. Uh,
mm,
Most of all, protect your peace. Yeah, there's a suicide hotline in case
mhm.
you need.
And I think you ladies have said it all very well. So what I would say is thank you to everyone who joined us tonight. And for those of you who will listen to this recording at a later date and time. And as Trey would always say, and we all agree with. Truth plus transparency equals healing. Have a great night, and remember to join us again next Monday night at 8 p.m.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.